Hello. I'm Jack.
I'm Ty.
We're about to talk about volcanoes.
Yay, volcanoes.
Yay, volcanoes. Okay, Ty, you ready to talk about volcanoes?
Yeah, let's do this thing.
I was really hesitant. I don't think you're ready to talk about volcanoes.
I think it's a scary topic just to start off with. You know, death and destruction. It's not all that fun, but let's do it. Who knows?
We're going to talk a little about death and or destruction.
I just associate volcanoes with death and destruction. I just think that's how it works. It just kind of comes with a deal. It's like a package deal. Like you live next to a volcano, you just assume to die eventually.
That's a great segue for something we're talking about later in the podcast and not now.
I mean,
which I suppose we can talk about right now.
Well, we could.
Well, I just meant talking about what we're going to talk about, Ty.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the whole point of the video, or the podcast, I think. It's just talking. Let's do it.
You do talk in a podcast. Yes,
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So, some things we're going to be talking about today are types of volcanoes, because apparently there's more than ones that just shoot out lava. I mean, I think they all shoot lava.
You can classify a volcano just by
things.
Look at a mountain. Just if it explodes, it's a volcano. I think
other mountains can explode.
I don't know. Not by
lava.
Not by the Earth. I mean, we can blow them up. I mean, that'd be cool.
I think mountains could probably self-explode.
That would be terrifying.
However, that is not the topic of today.
We need to make another one about exploding mountains.
Ty, you're getting ahead of ourselves. We're not at the 3-minute mark yet.
All right, that's fine. Let's go. Let's do it.
So we're going to be talking about types of volcanoes, any misconceptions that are out there about volcanoes.
I have a lot.
Yeah, there might be.
We'll
look at that later. We're also going to be talking about some current volcano news, or current to whenever we're recording. I think that'll actually really date this podcast.
Who knows? Whenever you hear this, Yellowstone might have already erupted.
And then that's our next topic, Yellowstone. So let's start at types of volcanoes.
And then we're all dead.
And this is whenever I have to make sure I don't look at the Utah. We're going to go with the Australian definitions of volcanoes because
Australia is more fun than America. We all know that. Except for Vegemite, they can go throw that in the lake or something. We could just dump
they have ocean, Ty. They don't.
Well, they also have a lake, I'm sure, somewhere, and they can dump the Vegemite in, and it can be called Vegemite Lake, and then nobody will go there. Not even the animals. Nobody likes Vegemite.
And that's how Ty alienated any Australian of the podcast. We're not even in 5 minutes.
Australians, but your Vegemite sucks. Everything else is cool except for, like, if you can live in Australia, then props to you for dealing with, like, giant spiders and spider rain and Vegemite. And kangaroos.
I like Vegemite, but this is not about volcanoes.
You like Vegemite?
Not volcanoes, Ty.
Okay, fine. We'll go back to it. We'll just talk about this later.
We can. When we're actually recording later.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a couple different types of volcano. First type, shield volcano, which is really runny lava. We're going with the. Gotta remember the name of the organization. The Australian government Geoscience Australia.
I think they give this stuff a better name.
Yeah, it doesn't really roll off the tongue.
No,
they have a little
really.
Kangaroo in their photo, though. So
that makes it up. Yeah, they get it. They get it.
They know they're Australian.
Yeah, they understand. If it's not like a picture of Vegemite, then we're fine. Moving on.
This
Shield
is your
volcanoes.
thing. This is your arc, right? Like this is what you're dedicating to the entire podcast.
No, I'm done with the Vegemite. I'm done.
We're done.
We're gonna move to koalas now, but that's gonna be in the later part.
We're talking about volcanoes.
Yeah, we're talking about volcanoes.
So shield volcanoes.
Yeah.
These are really hot and runny, and then gases escape out the top of the volcano. I mean, this happens with all, but I think these volcanoes are known for being fairly. Is passive the word I want to use? They're a lot calmer.
I don't think you
easier
can be
to survive.
Passive as a volcano.
Yeah.
I think the volcano just kind of seems like it's less angry, but it still wants to yell. Because I feel like it doesn't just ooze. I feel like there's an explosion.
Well, this one, shield volcanoes actually do ooze. Like, I think the rate at which a shield volcano spews lava is outwalkable. You could outwalk the lava from this. It's pretty slow.
That's not as scary.
Yeah, as long as you don't build
the big explosion ones.
Well, these are the volcanoes that make up the Hawaiian Islands.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And other, I believe generally whenever hot spots are formed, which are little spots in the Earth's crust, or I guess, Earth's crust, I guess. I was making sure. And that's just parts where
the lava just kind of seeps through. And
I was trying to think if it's lava or
now
magma.
we have Hawaiians and pineapples.
Because it gets tricky whenever it's coming out. Because it's magma as long as it's not on the surface, and then it's lava the second it is.
Right.
So that means if it's coming out, do you refer to it as lava or magma?
Lava.
I think it's magma the second it comes out.
It is magma till the second it comes out. Like the millisecond, and then just lava. I think it's like that classification.
It's very specific. I imagine
Yeah.
that causes people that study volcanoes quite a bit of strife.
Yeah, I'm sure whenever they talk to people, they're like, "It's lava." It's like, I thought it was magma. Well, it's lava now, and then they just have to go through like this
Yeah,
back
they
and
have to
forth
explain it every single
thing.
time.
Yeah, every single time. But oh well, shield volcanoes are kind of cool. That's why we have Hawaii now. And
Yeah,
the
Hawaii is lovely.
The Hawaiian volcano is still active, right? Like it's still growing.
Well, they have multiple volcanoes because what's happened is as tectonic plates move, or like the parts that we're sitting on and very slowly move, but as those move just over thousands and thousands and thousands, and I chose too small of a measurement for time there.
Well, yeah, I just say it in the millions, billions.
I should have gone millions.
As long as Earth has been created, other than that fiery part. But that's another podcast.
That's why I had to say thousands a couple times. It's because I chose too small of a measurement and I dedicate to it.
It's whatever,
But very slowly, the hotspot stays in the same place, but the tectonic plates move. So where exactly on the Earth's surface that the once magma, now lava, is coming up,
right,
slowly begins to form islands, and that's how you get a chain, which is why Hawaii has the biggest island to the south, which I don't know the name of.
Well, that's fine.
Oopsie daisies. It's not fine. Now we know a crap tie. We've gotten rid of any Hawaiian viewers and any Australian viewers.
Well, you see, they'll get over it. They'll eventually.
We're just slowly going to alienate everybody.
Yeah, eventually we'll
down
just
to
have
one
like
guy in Russia. That'll be it. It'll just be him.
He'll love it.
Yeah, he'll be in this like little shack in St. Petersburg. I didn't want to say Moscow.
It reminds me of Anastasia, but that's something different.
I don't. Can we talk about Anastasia? That's not volcano related. So you want to talk about the next type of volcano, which is
composite volcanoes. Okay,
yeah.
So volcanoes, which are also called composite volcanoes. So these volcanoes are characterized by the explosion eruption, kind of like the big boom that you think about. Not as passive as a shield volcano.
Shield volcanoes look cool, but
this one you can't outrun.
You're not standing next to it. Like you can't outrun it. Yeah.
So what it is it's basically the pressure builds up over a long period of time until it just kind of can't hold it anymore, and then the Earth just opens up.
Oh, like
and
a soda can? Shake up soda can?
Well, if you shake up a soda, yeah, kind of the same thing, except, a lot of people die, and there's a big explosion, and somehow it affects the atmosphere.
I don't think people always die.
Oh, I mean, it's like if a tree falls, you can't hear it unless you're there. So, like, if you're not there, then the tree can't fall on you, can it? Well, this is a volcano, so it's a lot bigger of a radius.
Volcanoes don't tend to fall on you, yeah.
No, well, unless it shoots out a rock, and then those rocks end up
That's true,
you.
actually. That brings us to the next part of composite and or stratovolcanoes, which is they blast stuff into the air. And they can blast, big stuff into the air. But more often it's tiny, like, pieces of rock.
Yeah, so the ash that you see at a volcano, you're like, oh, that's cool. Little ash is falling everywhere. That's not cool. Those are like little razor blades, and those hurt a lot.
Those are pyroclastics, right?
Yeah, the pyroclastics. And
we're both saying, we're guessing. I think we don't.
No, I think we know. I think we've yeah, they're right. The pyroclastic, yeah.
This is a horrible podcast. We're spreading possibly misinformation.
We're fine. No, we have it. Pyroclastic. So what that does is it shoots out of the volcano, and then people end up like breathing that in, and it ends up cutting their esophagus, and they die because they bleed internally.
That's fun.
And they also like death and despair. They gurgle on their own blood.
Death and despair. Gurgle on your own blood. That's that should be the. Oh man.
That should be the name of this podcast. Death and despair. Gurgle on your own blood.
I think you already nailed this down. I think we have to be something volcanoes. Whatever.
Yeah. We'll name it eventually after post.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically. You don't want to be near a stratovolcano.
No.
No, or else you're probably gonna die. There's a good chance you're gonna die.
Yeah.
If the lava and rocks don't get to you, you're gonna breathe something in.
The ash, it's not a fun place to be.
No,
very cool to watch explode.
Oh, I'm sure from a distance or a helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't like want to be in a town below it and be like, oh, a volcano is exploding.
Well, that's interesting because if you're in a town below it, they also they can cause mud flows or lahars, which I hope I didn't mispronounce.
I think it's right.
We're both looking at this word. We don't We don't know.
We don't know. We just hope.
We should mention this now.
Anybody that lives near a volcano and you know exactly what this is, we're sorry. We feel for you.
Yeah, this volcano is only useful to people who do not live near a volcano, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. Because if you live near it,
Unless
I'd
you
hope...
just moved near a volcano and you don't know about it yet, then, you know...
Then I'd hope you'd know...
Target audience.
Yeah, I'd hope you know about the thing that might kill you in the future. But if you don't...
I don't think the realtor is going to mention that.
No, I don't think they would. It's like,
I wouldn't upsell. That's something
you
say
love this
afterwards.
house? By the way, there's a volcano in your backyard. Oh, I love it. I'll take it.
They'd put a more positive spin on it.
Oh, but the scenic mountain.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, volcano.
It's like in fine print. It's like scenic mountain. Volcano.
Yeah, asterisk volcano.
It's gonna kill you eventually. Like there's volcano, and then right below it's like it's gonna kill you eventually.
Why would they put that on the sign? That's grim.
It's not on the sign. It's on the paperwork. Like that big
Oh.
pile, the big packet that you sift through, and you have to sign your name on like one thing, but all of it you should read, but you don't because the realtor's like pressing you. It's like sign this.
Well, I don't think
sign
it has,
this
I don't
now.
think it has to say
And then you just sign
about
it.
volcanoes. I'm not an expert on. You'd have to ask like a Hawaiian realtor. But
Yeah.
I don't imagine that they have to have fine print saying look out for volcanoes. I think they just encourage you to get volcano insurance.
That's an odd investment. Live next to a volcano.
How if you live next to a volcano?
Can you imagine the investor? Like I'm sure they have tabs in that volcano. Like they know when it's gonna blow. Except you can't really decide when it's gonna.
Yeah,
I think they have a
caldera volcanoes.
Yeah,
that's what we're gonna talk about next. Again, explosively. That's how they erupt.
as most volcanoes, except for the stupid shield ones. They're passive. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to volcano right.
So these volcanoes tend to like collapse in on themselves on their own weight, which again, cool to watch, but not fun to be around.
It doesn't seem like it'd be all that explosive because like
Well,
there's
it
a big
does
mountain
explode.
and then it just
It explodes
caves in.
and then it caves in, and that can send a lot of dust up. I mean, they look cool. They look super cool.
I could imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine after the fact it'd look really cool too because then you just have like a circle with like a hole in the middle of it.
Yeah, well, these have a ton of ashfall. That's the real dangerous part about these.
Oh, the
Yeah.
cut your esophagus, you bleed, and then you die.
I mean, they have
Gurgle.
these too, but they just send
Yeah.
a bunch of ash into the air, which can be bad for crops and people. And actually, we have a news story we're going to talk about later in the podcast about ash.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I'm
fun.
excited. Let's move on, and we'll get there eventually.
Well, I'm going to finish talking about the ash from caldera volcanoes, which the reason ash is bad is because it can also go into the atmosphere and just blot out sunlight, which is not great if you like agriculture.
Well, yeah, crops don't usually like the darkness.
No. Not at all.
No, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
So basically, don't live near a volcano.
That's not at all what we said.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The moral of the story: if it's not a shield volcano, I wouldn't recommend living near it. Also, if it's big, I wouldn't recommend living near
I should
it.
mention, you said don't live near a volcano. You followed it up with, well, I mean, maybe a shield volcano.
Well, the shield one you can outwalk. Like if it comes at you, you're like packing up your bags like slowly, and it's like the lava's outside, Dad. It's like it's all right. We can outwalk it. And it's like all right, pack your stuff, get in
What
the
an
car,
interesting story you've created here.
get in the car, and then it just kind of slowly drives. It's like what, kids? The lava's coming at us. Good thing we have volcano insurance.
I could have stopped you at any time. I just kept letting you go.
Yeah, I'm done now. That's my story.
We good?
Yeah.
All right. Now I've gathered. I've scoured the internet. Scoured
A lot of research
a lot of research.
from
And
Australia.
well, this is not Australian.
Oh,
this
this
is
is
just
not.
general
This is just-
research,
yeah,
and I've
yeah.
just collected any sort of misconceptions I can see here, and we're gonna tackle some. So the first one being that volcanic eruptions are rare events; that they're not common. And,
Are they not?
well, I think there's a volcano in Hawaii erupting right now, which I don't want to say for certainty because they're erupting all the time.
Yeah. That's terrifying. I'm sure.
Well, the shield volcanoes.
Yeah.
We just talked about how
Yeah, they erupt all the time.
They just kind of vary.
But what about the big ones? The ones that kill people? Those aren't as
Those
active.
don't tend to be as common because those end up building up pressure,
Oh.
and
Right.
so that's the other. The caldera collapse in on themselves, and then they strato shoot a bunch of stuff up.
Yeah.
But that requires them building up a bunch of pressure. That's why they're so deadly.
Right.
Just because they're getting all tense. But
Terrifying.
shield volcanoes is kind of very
Okay, so
calmly. Really, you can't. I'm doing a hand motion, but it's not
yeah.
very good.
So a common misconception is that all volcanoes are destructive and kill a bunch of people.
That's another one,
But
actually.
in reality, they're not all that bad.
Yeah, especially in the case of, again, shield volcanoes, which best type of volcanoes. We're going to say it now. This podcast highly favors shield volcanoes.
Yes, because they don't
volcanoes.
kill as many people, and they're really
Very
cool
low
to
murder
watch.
count.
Yeah, and you can be close to it without fearing that you're gonna breathe in shards of ash.
But shield volcanoes, like the ones on Hawaii, are actually, they kind of push out lava, and they very slowly expand the amount of land.
Oh, so you could like leave for about 20 years and come back, and then it's like
20 years.
it's like
is
a new
bit
island.
fast. I do know Hawaii is the only state that is growing, and it grows every year. Like its smallest island at the end of the chain, I don't know the name. I should have done more Hawaii research thinking about it.
I mean, Hawaii is Hawaii. Look at the map and just, which island is that?
That's what you're going with, Ty?
Yeah,
Which island is that?
there's a lot of islands in the ocean. For some reason, we think Hawaii is all that cool.
Hawaii's pretty cool.
Hawaii is pretty cool if you think about
Ty
it.
trying again to anger the Hawaiians.
I'm sorry, Hawaiians, but Hawaii is pretty cool.
So yeah, not super rare, at least in the case of shield volcanoes. Those are pretty active.
Yeah.
And then Caldera, I think those are the most rare, so those are probably the least likely to happen.
Thank God.
Yeah, those would be horrifying.
Yeah,
if those
it
were
like
everywhere.
happened every day. Like there's one explosion every day. I don't think the atmosphere could handle that.
Probably not. That'd be a lot of ash.
There'd be a lot of
make
ash
the-
and a lot of like
It would make the world very
chemical
cold.
emissions.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it wouldn't be
Ash is a
terrible.
chemical-
Like especially with like the whole global warming. But that's a whole other podcast.
No, another podcast entirely. So the next one we have is that volcanoes are mostly in tropical regions. Sort of like, we've already mentioned Hawaii, which is
Right.
helping. And then also, because the Ring of Fire in the Pacific, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically what if you drew it on a map, it looks like a very poor circle just going around the perimeter of the Pacific Ocean and kind of going against the west coast of the United States and the parts of Southern Asia. And it's just a giant circle on which lots of volcanoes happen to form just because they're on the... What's the word I'm looking for here, Ty? They're where two tectonic plates meet.
Oh yeah, on a fault line.
Yeah, they're on a fault. So they're right there, and then it's very easy for for volcanoes to form.
Yeah.
Just because magma can get up very easily there.
So basically, in like the next thousand years, we're gonna have an entire a volcanic
We're not saying
island
that, Ty.
chain.
What do you mean?
Like, well, these shield volcanoes that keep growing in this little circle that we have.
No. Those aren't all shield volcanoes.
Oh, like they're the big explosion ones.
They're various types of volcanoes.
Oh well, we could have more islands. Moral of the story: we're always gonna have land.
Nice save, Ty. The misconception is still that these are only in tropical regions, which is not true because Japan. I'm sure you've heard of Japan. I'm sure the listening audience has heard of Japan.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, Japan's cool.
Japan has tons of volcanoes. In
Yeah.
fact, Japan's many volcanoes is the reason that they have hot springs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hot springs sound cool if they don't burn you, which I imagine they would. I don't know. I've seen a lot of movies where they get into hot springs. It's like a hot tub, but I feel like that's not true. I feel like you would die.
I don't think you have to worry about dying in Japan's hot springs, Ty. I think
Okay.
I think the Japanese got it. I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, good.
And then
Good thing I know if I ever go to Japan, I can just sit in a hot spring.
Yes. Well, on top of that, going back to, again, the misconception that volcanoes are only in tropical regions.
Yeah.
There are also volcanoes, and I believe a good majority of the U.S.'s volcanoes are in Alaska. Because Alaska is both on the Ring of Fire, the northern part of the Ring of Fire,
Uh-huh.
and that causes a lot of this to form.
Oh.
Okay, I mean,
Wouldn't
Alaska's also very big, which I feel
But yeah,
like
Alaska's quite large.
But I
think
mean,
it's
Utah also has volcanoes, and I would not
Leave it to
describe Utah as
Leave
tropical.
it to
Yeah.
Utah.
And then, of course, there's also Yellowstone National Park, and the Yellowstone
Ooh.
volcano, Which,
Ooh.
not a tropical region, Ty. We're not doing that yet.
Okay.
Ty's just going,
Wow.
ooh, for those of you that can't hear at home.
Yeah, ooh. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. We'll talk about Yellowstone later.
Death and destruction.
Ty, no. Jesus.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on next misconception. No, I can't read either.
Alright, so the next misconception is
I'll have to cut that out in post. There's a long pause, because I'm assuming you're coming back now.
Yeah.
Where both of us, looked at the points we're supposed to cover, and
And-
neither of us said anything.
No, we were just looking, and I was like, I looked at him,
And I can't read it. I
I
can't
looked
read
at
it
it.
at all.
and then I looked at the mic, and then I looked at him, and I was like, are we not going?
Yeah, so that was good. I'll have to fix that in post.
Moving on.
Just making more work for myself.
More work. Alright, so English is not...
No, I feel like we're
Not
losing the
again.
ability to talk.
Yeah. Well, it's... Most deaths during volcanic eruptions are due to suffocation, rather than from, the smoke or, the ash, than it actually is from the lava. Which, I mean, I could see. Especially from, the stratovolcanoes or stuff like that, where they emit a lot of smoke and chemicals and ash. That a lot of people would panic, and in that they would breathe in more of it. Because I feel like when you breathe, whenever you get panicked, you breathe in and now a lot faster. Because you go into that fight or flight mode, and that is a lot more deadly than I feel like the rocks would be. Because the rocks, there's a probability chance, but breathing in is kind of a thing that happens.
Well, I think the dangers of each volcano are dependent on the type of volcano.
Mm-hmm.
The ash is always... In volcanoes that do shoot ash, and that sort. That is definitely a difficulty of those.
Yeah, and I feel
It's
like...
something to avoid.
I feel like something that we saw was that there are certain volcanoes that only emit, gases. And that they kill people a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the gases for certain volcanoes can be more dangerous than the lava. And then that's more of a case-by-case basis. I can't say for certainty. I imagine, a lot of problems with volcanoes and people living near them, especially, again, less with shield volcanoes, because I think the state of Hawaii's got that handled pretty well.
Yeah, I think they have it down.
There are other shield volcanoes I should mention other than Hawaii.
This is the one we're using because it's the one we know.
Also, I don't know if you've looked into the Hawaiian Islands, listening audience and or Thai.
Mm-hmm.
They're lovely. They're really beautiful.
I have not looked into it. I've always wanted to go, but I've never had the chance.
Yeah, if you do research, I'm trying to remember which volcano it is. But there is a volcano on the island of Hawaii, the main island, the biggest one, not the main one. But the biggest island of Hawaii, I believe that's the right one. So much misinformation. I could just be spewing misinformation.
Well, this is about
The thing
volcanoes,
I do know-
not Hawaii.
The thing I do know is that the largest volcano in the Hawaiian Islands happens to have snow on it in the wintertime.
Oh.
And for a while, it actually used to have a glacier on top of it.
Oh. I think I've
that
heard
was
something
way
like that.
before it was a state.
Yeah. I think I've heard
something
the glacier moved down or something, and there's a big path
It just
you
slowly,
can see.
I believe it just slowly melted over time because things started heating up ever since the Ice Age.
Right.
And then that's when it was, it was cold enough for a while to have a glacier on top. And now it still snows there.
Yeah. So if you ever have a friend that's like, no, Hawaii, it never snows. You can just
We're not
bet some
trying to
money.
prove-
Bet some money, and then be like, hey, guess what?
We do not support gambling.
They have a volcano, and it snows on it. And then they're going to give you this look like, what? I thought volcanoes were hot. But in reality, it snows on a volcano in Hawaii. And you win. And then you get money.
The point of this is that volcanoes are pretty. That's, I think, what we're getting at.
Yeah.
So, let's move on to the next misconception. I think we're way off from whatever we were originally talking about there.
Alright, so the next misconception...
Let's go with this one.
Alright, is the whole idea of the common use of active, dormant, and extinct terms have geological validation.
Yeah, so basically what we're trying to say is whenever people refer to volcanoes as being dormant or being active and even extinct, which I can go over what each of these means. Active is, you're seeing some sort of activity there. Dormant is there hasn't been any activity there for...
It could explode, but it's not right now.
Or, there hasn't been any
So
activity
it's
in
like
a while.
a...
I think for dormant you have to have a certain amount of time without any recent activity. And then for extinct, there has to be a super long period of time without any activity.
Right.
However, none of this really matters because volcanoes that are extinct can still erupt.
Then what's the point of naming it extinct?
There isn't.
At
That's
that
the point of
point-
that misconception.
What's the point? If it's
There-
extinct, it's just a mountain.
Yeah, those.
It's
there's no
extinct,
point.
guys. Then it explodes, and then everyone looks at science. They're like, "What the hell, science?"
No, that's
And then-
that's the misconception. Is
All right. So what classifies each one? So active means it's actively exploding, which means
or
like,
there's
it's
it
happening.
doesn't have to be exploding. It just has to be signs of it having some form of volcanic activity.
Like the smoke, or like
But
the
again,
chemicals, or
A dormant volcano could still become active and erupt, and so could an extinct. These terms don't really mean anything. Like they're just terms we used, and now we've realized,
huh?
that's a bit misleading.
So nothing like classifies it other than extinct hasn't erupted in a while. And they're like,
Yeah,
well,
basically how we have to look at volcanoes is that one hasn't erupted in a while.
and this one has. So therefore, it's dormant. But this one hasn't. So we're gonna assume
Which I mean, those terms
it's
can
not
be,
gonna
those
blow.
terms can be slightly useful, but we don't use them. They're not all encompassing. Like we look at other things.
No, I couldn't
Too,
imagine. I didn't know that.
Talking about volcanoes.
All right.
We have one more misconception we're going to talk about, which is the misconception that volcanoes are only hazards and not important to long-term resources.
See, that one's fun because I know because of the geology class that I took. There's a lot of underground minerals that are pushed up because of volcanoes, and also volcanic ash is a big fertilizer.
I didn't even think
Eventually,
about
after a time.
I did think about the fertilizer,
Mm-hmm.
which is one thing I know, because talking about Hawaii again.
Yeah, they have a lot of
Hawaii-
agriculture.
Yeah, Hawaii is super fertile because of all the minerals in the ground due to the volcanoes. And the volcanoes create new land, and then that land is super awesome for growing crops, like coffee.
And also,
Hawaiian
like,
coffee is so good. It really is.
I've never had it. I'm
It's
not,
like
I'm not a
regular
big
coffee, but Hawaiian.
big coffee person. So moving on. So what I was going to say is that minerals from like volcanoes.
Yes.
So it pushes out a lot of different things, like from the
From lower levels.
from
of the
lower,
earth,
like
from
way lower levels.
Yeah.
Like the magma melts it all, and then it pushes it up. So like minerals that we can't usually get to, we can get to through a volcano.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Or like from previous eruptions. And also the way a volcano does is that it affects so much of our ecosystem and how society is run. So like if a volcano erupts, then it could change the entire ecosystem. It could change everything.
Yeah, which is very interesting because Hawaii, I believe, has some of the most extreme biodiversity on the planet.
Yeah, it's weird.
Just due to
Like,
how fertile all of the soil is, and just everything's ability to thrive. And then the fact that they have, mountains where it can snow, and then tropical rainforest also gives it quite a bit of diversity.
And just the fact that a volcano can change all that in a matter of seconds. Not in a matter of seconds,
Well,
but like
yeah, but an
it
eruption can
explodes
lead to all this stuff happening.
and then it could change everything, which is really interesting to like
yeah.
see something like that.
It also creates new land, which is always cool, especially in case of Hawaii.
Yeah, and
And also geothermal energy. 'Cause
that's fun
in places
because we
like
can actually use
Greenland
that.
and Iceland, and again Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
that are near things.
Shield volcanoes.
So Japan can also use. Well, if you're just near volcanoes or any sort of hotspot in general, you can use it, which is basically just using the heat of the earth to generate energy, which is really cool.
So basically, you're gambling because there's a volcano next to you, but you can use
It's
it.
not gambling if it's a shield volcano.
No, but like for like the
But
bigger
you're
ones,
just you don't. It works. You can just use geothermal energy in any region that is, close to any form of hot spot
it's like
or.
poking Yellowstone. It's like
It's not like poking Yellowstone.
how you doing, bud? You doing all right? You gonna kill me today?
No,
No, all right.
Things Ty says are not the idea.
I'm just using
We're
it for
not condoning everything
analogies
Ty says.
for the people
Ty's not
who
great at
think like
analogies
me,
either.
which is very few. I would like to think I'm unique, but obviously nobody's unique. That's another podcast.
You can't keep saying that, Ty, because then we have to do them. All right, ready to talk about volcano news, Ty?
Yeah, I'm excited, but then again, I'm scared.
We don't live near a volcano, Ty.
I know we don't, but like, I know the effects of a volcano. I don't want to go into another ice age.
Okay, starting with Japan.
Naturally.
Well, Japan does have
Yeah,
lots
they
of
have lots
volcanoes.
of volcanoes.
They're very mountainous, and a lot of those mountains happen to be volcanoes. So, I read about this the other day,
Mhm.
and I thought it was really cool
Right.
because it's in Japan. And everybody knows Japan. So basically what's happening in a... What region of Japan is this? I'm not even going to try to say it.
I'll try to say it.
Ty will try to say it.
Miyazaki.
Oh, it is Miyazaki.
Miyazaki. Look, I pronounced it right.
Great. Yeah, so the Miyazaki Prefecture. What's the...
Shinmoedake.
Ty tackling these Japanese words with so much bravery that I'm almost sure he's saying them right. So the Shinmoedake volcano is kind of just very slowly spewing ash into the air.
Oh, so it's not actually like erupting. It's just kind of doing the thing that kills people.
Yeah, Japan is not scared, which is a very Japanese thing to do.
Yeah, I don't think much scares them nowadays.
No, I mean,
Or even like in history. I
they're
think,
like used to it.
yeah, I think they've gotten the worst of it. So I don't think
So,
a little measly volcano is gonna hurt them.
So it's, I mean, it's not measly. It's
Yeah.
it's a volcano, and it's like spewing ash into, you know, at least 4 cities in the Miyazaki Prefecture.
Oh, that's
Which
a lot
is
of cities.
That's at least 2.
It's like-
4 is at least 2. That is.
Huh.
I'm standing by that. So there's actually so much ash being spewed out. It's not so much lava, but they have to clear the streets of ash, and they have farmers going around with.
Oh, I've seen something like this.
Yeah.
Like I've seen the people. There's like a news article, and it was of the people like moving
Yeah, I
the ash
showed
out
this
of the
to
way.
you. Yeah.
I think we talked about this before.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit before.
I think it was probably yesterday, maybe.
No, it was last week actually.
Oh well.
Trying not to date this, but now I have.
That's how time works.
Now
right?
I've dated this the podcast pretty well because now someone can just type in, "Oh, when in the Miyazaki." Yeah.
Oh well.
Wonder when a volcano in the Miyazaki Prefecture went up. But it's spewing ash,
Right.
and they have to clear the streets of ash,
Mm-hmm.
like it's snow.
It's a shitty snow.
I mean, it's got to be cool. Sadly, the kids
Do they
in
still
the
have to go to
Miyazaki
school?
Prefecture do still have to go to school.
Oh, it's not even like a good snow day.
No, it's not.
They can't even like use it as an excuse. The teacher's like, "All right, we're having class." Kids are like, "But there's a volcano." Okay, and you still need to learn.
Yeah. So
That's how I envision all
currently,
teachers.
farmers in the region are going around and they have to they have leaf blowers and they are blowing the ash off of their crops, so that way they don't collect and kill the crops. And then they also have to clear off any greenhouses in the region.
I mean, yeah.
This is actually the first time this volcano has erupted in about 6 years.
Wait, so that's pretty new.
Well,
Like,
the volcanoes erupted 6 years ago. But, I mean, that's long enough. Like, some kids in elementary school have never been around for this volcano erupting. Any 12-year-old has, though.
just imagine that. 6 years. It's like, oh, the volcano just erupted. It'll do it again.
Yeah,
And then, like,
again.
staying there. It's
Well,
like-
that's the thing, is not all volcanoes are very scary. Especially one that basically just gives you a warm snow day.
of ash.
Yeah. Well, the thing, kids going to school actually have, like, little masks on.
Yeah, I would
So
hope.
they don't breathe any ash in. So they have, like, the little medical masks. And stuff like that.
Aw, how cute.
Kind of
This little 5-year-old, like, I'm going to school. Mom's like, wear your mask, honey. It's snowing ash.
Yeah, but that in Japanese, don't.
Oh, I can't do
No,
that in
you- yeah,
Japanese.
don't even try.
Mm-mm.
Nope, can't do
I
it.
just come off as racist.
That's why I told you not to try. I said it and I was scared you might. I was scared you might accidentally do something.
Mhm.
So the ash plume, like the direct thing shooting out of the volcano,
Right.
is shooting about 2,000 meters, which is 6,560 feet.
Oh,
On the curve.
that's way more than
This
I
is
thought
all,
it
by the
was.
way, according to the Japan Meteorological Agency.
Oh, okay. So this thing is huge.
I mean, it's a lot of ash.
Yeah, that's a lot more than I thought it was. Like, I thought it was just like measly, like, oh, this isn't that bad.
Well, it's not super
But the way,
dangerous.
like, since we've talked about all this stuff and how ash can affect the land, would that be
Yeah,
like a
it
good
can-
thing in the future? Like that the
It's
ash
not-
is then refertilizing all this stuff? And
I don't know. I don't know. I imagine it's probably not the worst.
'Cause I can imagine that's why
Japan's
people would
response
say.
doesn't seem to drastic.
But I mean, if it explodes every 6 years, I can imagine they wouldn't really.
Well, if it's a plume of ash every 6 years.
Like if a volcano just erupted outside right now, I'd be like, ah!
It's not erupting, it's just shooting ash.
Even if it did that.
You would just see it start to snow pretty much.
Oh.
And you'd be like, whoa, it's snowing early. And then, some old person who's been around long enough to see the volcano, because it goes off, at least it went off last time in 6 years. I'm assuming it did something similar. So any person's just old enough to remember that. But any old person who's just old enough to remember that.
Alright.
Has lived through it.
So are there any more, news for the volcanoes? Because we've seen one, and they erupt constantly. So I'm sure there's another one here recently.
Yeah, well, there's one that... This is less recent. This is an article that was put out recently. Because if you're a journalist, why not occasionally write about volcanoes that haven't done anything?
Sure.
So this is an article about the Vesuvian volcano.
Alright.
Which is a volcano in Italy. It's northern Italy. I'm trying to think what city
Italian volcanoes.
Yeah. They don't erupt pasta sauce, sadly.
That'd be cool, though. I think I'd be happy with that. If they erupted and, it rained noodles.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
So, I'm sure you know.
What? What do I know?
That, Vesuvius is not a shield volcano. Neither is it just one that very calmly shoots ash. When this thing goes, it's going full on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. That's, a big explosion.
That's what I meant by saying full on. And there is a giant, population of people just living right next to it.
Even more terrifying, because that can...
Yeah, this is, unlike the other story, this is a very, very violent case.
Oh, and it's is it predicted to explode anytime soon, or is that...
I believe, according to this article, I think they've been seeing some signs that aren't super good. I'm going to stroll, kind of look at some pictures here.
Oh, gosh.
Of just fire and smoke.
So, it's not looking too good for Italy.
I mean, that part of Italy.
That's a lot of smoke. So, yeah. So, this thing is... I wouldn't say... It active? Mildly active?
I think that's active.
That counts as active. So, it's mildly active, and...
Well, the real problem here is that there's just a large population living right next to the volcano.
Uh-huh.
It's going to be very big whenever it does explode. I don't know what type of volcano it is. It's not a shield volcano. It's not exactly fun to be around.
No, I couldn't imagine.
You have a large population, and I don't know if they have any proper way to deal with that. I think generally the population here is pretty content with not worrying about it.
Yeah.
Which causes quite a bit of problem.
I can imagine. I think it's one of those things people are just no, I don't really think we should think about it. And then it becomes a problem, and then people have to think about it, but they're not prepared for it.
Yeah, that's the real point, is that this is such a big volcano that people... It wouldn't be catastrophes, it probably wouldn't be super detrimental to, the world as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just such a decent amount of people, there's a large amount of people living so close to it that whenever it goes up, it won't be good. And...
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of large amounts of people close to things that aren't really good, let's talk about Yellowstone!
Yeah, this is the capping
thing
point.
that'll kill us all.
Articles about this come out all the time.
Because such a big volcano.
Every time somebody anytime, any journalist, I guess, individually, realizes it, they goes, oh, that'll be a great story. And then they proceed to write about it.
So, basically, what Yellowstone is this giant volcano.
Super giant, yeah.
Oh gosh, I forgot it.
It's in Yellowstone National Park.
Yeah, Yellowstone National Park, which is why it's called Yellowstone. So, basically, it's one of the biggest volcanoes we have in the world. And it's due for an explosion.
The volcano itself, I don't believe, is particularly large. It's just
the pressure,
predicted explosion of it. The amount of, just firepower behind it.
Yeah, let's just put this into a perspective. So, if Yellowstone explodes, it will go... Let's see, do you have some numbers I can throw out there?
No, I didn't know you were going to talk about it.
Okay, so what I've heard from Yellowstone is that what it'll do is it'll explode and the rocks and the lava will go pretty far out, But what's really going to hurt all of us is the amount of smoke and amount of chemicals that it releases into the air. So what it's going to do is it's going to spread, and the smoke will go in the air. And with
a lot
the
of
amount
ash in the air, yes.
Yeah, with the amount of explosion, the amount of power that it has, this smoke and the amount that it emits will spread almost all the way across America.
Yeah, it should spread pretty much across most of the continental United States. I would say a pretty portion. The amount of ash it's predicted to shoot up into the air in general, like the atmosphere, is predicted to actually lower global temperatures. And this is bad because previously when volcanoes that have been not as big as Yellowstone, but still fairly sizable, have gone off and done the same, there have been global drops in temperature. Where there have been frosts that kind of kill off plants, and it makes agriculture impossible, which is not great. Also, just the initial explosion from Yellowstone would not exactly be a great time to just be in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, any of those states within any reasonable amount. It would be a ridiculously large migration.
Oh, yeah.
People would be flooding out of the West Coast.
And the big thing with Yellowstone is we can't predict it.
Yeah,
we have no idea. Literally tomorrow it could explode. Or if it's already exploded whenever you're listening to this, then I guess humanity survived.
Yeah, I mean...
Yay!
I'm not worried about humanity not surviving.
I'm just worried about catastrophic for the United States.
I'm trying to think when the last... It hasn't erupted, I believe, in a couple million years.
But it's
At least, large eruptions. Maybe a couple thousand years. Basically, the interval between
630,000 years.
I mean, I would have gone for a more round number. I would have been 8,000. The point is, we don't really know when it'll erupt.
No, and it's predicted because if it does in the interval that it wants to,
or in the intervals that we've guessed based on past eruptions,
and through rock samples and mineral development and what it has emitted and what we can see from the ash trails and how it's acting at this moment, we're due for another one.
Well, I mean, it's not
in the next
that. It's just based on timing.
100,000 years.
Because volcanoes tend to erupt based on timing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of that's the only real thing we have to guess on. I mean, we can also track, I mean, there's other things, but most of that's just kind of guessing and hoping.
And the scary part is what you just said, is that how little we actually know
of
how to predict a volcano or how a volcano... We know how it works, but we don't know, when. When is enough? When is too much pressure going to blow? Well, there's no way of us measuring that. So we're just sitting there watching this giant ticking bomb, just waiting.
Yeah, there's not really what we can do about it. It is a caldera volcano, I should mention, which is from earlier.
It'll cave in on itself.
Least common. It caves in, shoots a bunch of ash, and that is the bad part.
And
super destructive.
Oh yeah.
It actually has erupted a couple times over its general lifespan as a volcano.
Yellowstone won't exist after it blows.
I mean, the volcano itself might. Oh, the park?
The park will not exist.
No, any infrastructure there would be.
No, gone.
I couldn't imagine working there. It's probably quite a bit of stress that day.
Yeah, I can imagine. Especially with Old Faithful and Old Faithful is also tied to the Yellowstone volcano.
Yeah, well, all the hot spots and springs around Yellowstone are all due to the giant volcano there, which is why Yellowstone is so cool. I'm in this predicament where I want to recommend people visit Yellowstone because it's a lovely national park.
It's really pretty.
Really pretty.
But
it could explode. Probably won't explode while you're there.
There's a probability. I'm sure there's a probability.
Oh, well, yeah.
You just take your risk.
But it most likely won't explode while you're there.
And if it does, then,
What a way to go.
Yeah, you're right.
At least it'll be quick.
Maybe. You hope.
You hope.
You get hit by a rock and you're pinned down when the lava comes at you, but...
I think we learned a lot about volcanoes.
We did learn a lot about volcanoes. I learned a lot about volcanoes. You seem to know what you're talking about. The only thing I know about is Yellowstone and how it's going to kill us all one day.
Well, Ty, thank you for joining me today.
It was fun to be on the show.
Yeah, it was great. And thank you everybody at home for listening. Hope you learned something about volcanoes.
Hope you learned something. Bye, guys.
Bye.